Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the
answer? Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you held on to the documents?
I was negotiating and we were talking to...
Kaitlan Collins just handed Donald Trump a reality check on live TV, and let's just say he did not see it coming. In a moment that left even his most loyal supporters stunned, Collins delivered a truth bomb so undeniable that Trump for once was left scrambling for words. Picture this: Trump red-faced, visibly flustered, trying to maintain his signature bravado as Collins calmly dismantles his narrative piece by piece. The air in the room shifts. You can almost hear the tension crackling as the audience leans in, waiting for his comeback. But this time, there's no quick-witted insult, no rehearsed deflection, just an awkward pause as reality sets in. For years, Trump has built his political brand on dominating interviews, overpowering his opponents with sheer confidence. But Collins, she didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She simply held up the facts, cold, hard, and impossible to ignore. And for the first time in a long time, Trump found himself cornered. What made this moment so brutal wasn't just what was said, it was how it played out. Trump, known for his ability to turn any situation to his advantage, suddenly looked powerless. It was a rare, almost cinematic moment where the former president, a master of controlling the narrative, found himself losing grip on it completely. Of course, his supporters will spin it differently. They'll claim he was set up, that the media is out to get him, that it was all part of some grand conspiracy. But here's the thing, facts don't have political allegiance, and no matter how you slice it, Trump was caught off guard in a way that no one expected. Now the question is, what happens next? Will Trump double down, launching into a furious tirade on social media, calling Collins every name in the book? Or will he go silent, letting his allies do the damage control for him? One thing's for sure, this moment won't be forgotten anytime soon. What do you think? Was this the moment that finally shook Trump's confidence? Or will he bounce back stronger than ever? Drop your thoughts below because this conversation is far from over.
So I don't think that's a...
So he doesn't think he can fire the Fed chair?
I think that's been resolved in the previous administration. You can go back and find a clip where I talked about it right in this space.
Kaitlan Collins isn't holding back, and this time, she's putting Donald Trump right in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. The former president has once again made headlines, but not for a policy move or a campaign strategy. No, this time, he's pulling what looks like a reality TV stunt, firing 2 Democratic Federal Trade Commission (FTC) commissioners with the kind of abruptness that feels straight out of The Apprentice. No warning, no explanation, just a sudden dramatic exit, because apparently in Trump's world, you don't need a reason when you're the star of the show. But let's be real, this isn't a TV show. This is the real world. And in the real world, you can't just fire government officials simply because you don't like their political stance or because they refuse to play along with your agenda. The FTC isn't a boardroom where contestants get eliminated at the whim of a host. It's a crucial regulatory body responsible for ensuring fair competition, protecting consumers, and holding corporations accountable. So what does this move really mean? Let's break it down. By removing these commissioners, Trump isn't just shaking up the FTC, he's trying to reshape it entirely. The agency has been a thorn in his side, especially when it comes to cracking down on corporate monopolies and enforcing regulations that many of his allies in big business would rather see disappear. With Democrats out of the way, Trump now has a golden opportunity to stack the deck in his favor, appointing individuals who align with his vision, one that many critics argue prioritizes corporate interests over consumer protection. The backlash has been swift. Legal experts are already questioning the legality of these firings. Political analysts warn that this move could set a dangerous precedent, undermining the independence of federal agencies. And Democrats? They're calling it exactly what it is, an abuse of power. Even some Republicans are feeling uneasy, while Trump's loyal base is cheering on the move as another bold step against the so-called deep state. Others within the party recognize the risk. If presidents can start removing officials from independent agencies without cause, what's stopping future administrations from doing the same? But perhaps the most chilling aspect of all this is the message it sends. This isn't just about 2 commissioners losing their jobs. It's about silencing opposition. It's about sending a clear warning to anyone who dares to challenge Trump's authority, fall in line, or face the consequences. And the timing, convenient to say the least. With the 2024 election looming, looming and Trump's legal troubles piling up, this move signals a deeper strategy. By weakening regulatory agencies now, he's laying the groundwork for a potential return to power, one where oversight and accountability are no longer obstacles. So what happens next? Will these firings stand, or will legal challenges force Trump to backtrack? Will Congress step in, or will this become yet another political battle lost in the noise? One thing is certain, this fight is far from over. What do you think? Is Trump's move a strategic masterstroke, or is it a dangerous overreach? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is just getting started.
One of President Trump's top economic advisors, Kevin Hassett, as soon as he wrapped an interview. This was coming about 24 hours after President Trump had summarily fired both of the Democratic commissioners who serve on the Federal Trade Commission, which they argued was an illegal move by the president. And it also raised questions, certainly in the business world, about whether or not that could mean that Trump is preparing to seek to fire other independent agency heads, like potentially the Fed chair, Fed board members. A question that I posed to Mr. Kevin Hassett. The president fired last night 2 members of the FTC, the Democratic members of that. It raised questions about whether or not he does respect the independence of the Fed, or he thinks that they are fair game as well. What is the president's view on that?
We very much.
Oh, and before we dive in, if you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe and stay updated with all the latest. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump. Whether it's a blatant disregard for legal norms or his long-established pattern of dodging accountability, one thing is clear. Trump operates as if the rules were made for everyone else but him. For years, he's maneuvered through loopholes, dismissed legal challenges, and played the system to his advantage. But this time, the law might finally have his number. The walls are closing in, and the consequences he's managed to avoid for so long may finally catch up with him. From mounting legal battles to courtroom showdowns, the former president is now facing the kind of scrutiny he spent a lifetime evading. The big question is, will he actually be held accountable this time, or will he find yet another way to slip through the cracks? Trump has built his entire persona on defiance. Defiance of the establishment, defiance of critics, and defiance of the law itself. He's never been one to play by the rules, but the reality is that the legal system doesn't operate on bravado alone. Investigations are piling up, legal experts are weighing in, and even some of his staunchest allies are beginning to distance themselves. Yet, despite the legal trouble, his loyal base remains unwavering. To them, every indictment, every lawsuit, and every courtroom battle is just another chapter in Trump's so-called witch hunt narrative. He's turned every legal challenge into a rallying cry, painting himself as a victim of political persecution, rather than a man facing the consequences of his actions. But here's where things get interesting. This time, the stakes are higher than ever. With multiple cases in motion, the possibility of real legal repercussions is becoming harder to ignore. Judges, prosecutors, and even former allies are signaling that Trump may not be able to dodge this one. So what happens next? Could we see the unprecedented moment of a former US president facing serious legal punishment? Or will Trump once again find a way to escape the grip of the justice system? One thing is certain, the next few months will be crucial. Whether he walks free or faces the full weight of the law, history is being written right now. The question is, will this be the moment Trump finally faces the consequences, or is this just another chapter in his never-ending battle against accountability? Drop your thoughts below, and let's get the conversation started.
Goal to get this to the Supreme Court to try to overturn the 1935 precedent? The goal was to let these individuals go. If we have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, we certainly will.
Kaitlan Collins isn't here for political games, especially when they threaten the integrity of public service. You can't just fire people for doing their jobs, particularly when those jobs involve holding corporations accountable. That's exactly what government commissioners are supposed to do. Make sure powerful businesses don't run unchecked, ensuring fairness, transparency, and consumer protection. But Donald Trump, he sees things differently. In his world, loyalty trumps law, and oversight is nothing more than an obstacle. So when these commissioners dared to do their jobs too well, when they refused to bow to corporate influence and political pressure, Trump did what he does best. He wielded his executive power like a weapon, dismissing them without hesitation. Let's be clear, this wasn't about incompetence. It wasn't about corruption. These officials weren't caught in some scandal. Their only crime, enforcing the rules, protecting consumers, and refusing to cave to special interests. And for that, they were shown the door. But should we really be surprised? Trump has always had a complicated relationship with oversight, one that leans more toward dismantling it than respecting it. Throughout Throughout his presidency, he repeatedly clashed with agencies meant to check corporate power, slashing regulations, sidelining watchdogs, and replacing independent officials with loyalists. In his eyes, accountability isn't a pillar of democracy, it's a nuisance. And let's not forget the broader implications. This kind of move sends a chilling message to anyone tasked with keeping big business in check. Fall in line or face the consequences. It's a power play designed to create fear, ensuring that regulators think twice before standing up to corporate interests, or to Trump himself. The real question is, where does this end? If presidents can fire regulators simply for enforcing the law, what happens to government accountability? What happens to consumer rights? And more importantly, what happens when political loyalty becomes more valuable than public service? One thing's for sure, Kaitlan Collins isn't backing down, and neither should the American people. This isn't just about a few dismissed commissioners, it's about the fundamental question of whether government exists to serve the public or to shield the powerful. So what do you think? Is this just another case of Trump being Trump, or is this a dangerous precedent that threatens the very foundation of government accountability? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over.
One of the fired commissioners, Commissioner Bedoya, told the New York Times, and I'm quoting now, "When people hear this news, they need to not think about me. They need to think about the billionaires behind the president at his inauguration." My next source was appointed to the FTC by President Trump actually during his first term in 2018. She was the other Democratic commissioner fired by him yesterday, Rebecca Slaughter.
Kaitlan, as always, isn't letting Trump off the hook. This isn't some minor slip-up or an innocent mistake. This is classic Trump playbook behavior. Firing people the moment they challenge him, that's not leadership, it's an abuse of power. And this time, it's not just staff members or political rivals. It's Federal Trade Commission, FTC commissioners, officials tasked with enforcing laws that ensure businesses play fair. And we all know how Trump feels about rules and regulations. He doesn't want oversight. He doesn't want checks and balances. He wants free reign to do as he pleases, no matter the cost. But here's the reality check. The law doesn't bend to Trump's whims. You can't just fire government officials because you don't like them. That's not how democracy works. But in Trump's world, anyone who stands in his way gets the axe. Legality be damned. And let's not forget, this is far from an isolated incident. This is a pattern. Trump has a history of tossing people aside the second they challenge him. Employees, staffers, government officials, if they're not blindly loyal, they're disposable. We saw it with James Comey when Trump fired him as FBI director after he wouldn't pledge personal loyalty. We saw it with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was booted for not shielding Trump from the Russia investigation. We saw it with countless whistleblowers, military officials, and advisors who dared to act independently. And now, the FTC commissioners are the latest victims of Trump's relentless purge. And when confronted about it, he does what he always does: deflect, deny, distract. He spins it as draining the swamp, when in reality, he's stacking the deck in his favor. This isn't about making government more efficient. It's about eliminating anyone who enforces rules he doesn't like. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about a few firings. This move could have real consequences for everyday Americans. The FTC plays a critical role in regulating monopolies, preventing consumer fraud, and keeping corporations in check. Without strong oversight, big businesses could run rampant, unchecked by the very agency meant to hold them accountable. And guess who benefits from that? Not the American people, big corporations, and wealthy elites, the very ones who fund Trump's political machine. And don't think Kaitlan is backing down. She's calling this out for exactly what it is: an authoritarian power grab disguised as routine politics. She's not letting Trump spin this as just another bureaucratic shuffle. This is an attack on accountability itself. So the question now is, will Congress step up? Will lawmakers hold Trump accountable for once? Or will they yet again look the other way as he bulldozes through democratic institutions like they're his personal property? One thing's for sure, this fight isn't over, and as long as Trump keeps dodging responsibility, Kaitlan will be right there, making sure the American people see the truth. What do you think? Is this just another political move, or is Trump undermining democracy? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is just getting started.
The statute that governs the FTC says that someone who is in your position cannot be fired only if they can be removed for cause if there is neglect, malfeasance, or inefficiency. Were you given any of those reasons when you were fired?
No, absolutely none.
And so what was there just any argument whatsoever beyond the letter you received?
The president can fire you, and so he chooses to do so.
He does what he always does, fires, discredits, and steamrolls anyone who dares to hold him to a standard. But for Kaitlan Collins, this isn't just another political stunt. It's a glaring example of Trump's continued disregard for fair competition, the rule of law, and frankly, anyone who doesn't fall in line with his vision. The pattern is clear. Challenge Trump and you're out. Raise concerns and you're labeled part of the conspiracy. He treats democracy like his personal reality show, where loyalty matters more than truth and dissent is met with immediate consequences. The worst part? His response. Does he take responsibility? Admit any wrongdoing? Of course not. Instead, he blames the system, the commissioners, the media, anyone but himself. The narrative is the same as always. He's the victim, the game is rigged, and everyone is out to get him. It's a tired act, but it still plays well to his most loyal supporters. But Kaitlan Collins isn't letting this slide. She's calling out the hypocrisy, the recklessness, and the blatant power grab that's been Trump's trademark since day one. She's not just reporting the facts, she's demanding accountability, a concept Trump seems allergic to. The real question now is, how far will he go? We've seen this playbook before. Discredit the institutions, undermine the rules, and when all else fails, claim it was never fair to begin with. This isn't just about one incident or one journalist. This is about a leader who refuses to be held accountable, who sees democracy as an obstacle rather than a responsibility. So what happens next? Will this be another controversy that fades away, drowned out by the next scandal? Or is this the moment where the cracks in Trump's carefully crafted persona start to show? One thing is certain, Kaitlan Collins isn't backing down, and neither should we. What do you think? Is this just another example of Trump dodging accountability, or is there something deeper at play? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over.
You believe that's illegal?
It is absolutely illegal. The statute that you referenced is very clear on its face. And in fact, the Supreme Court has evaluated whether it is a constitutionally valid statute and whether a president can remove an FTC commissioner. Exactly this question. They faced it 90 years ago when FDR tried to remove an FTC commissioner, Commissioner Humphrey. And they said, no, the law is clear. They cannot be removed other than for cause. And that is a constitutional law.
These commissioners were simply doing their jobs, upholding the rules, maintaining integrity. And yet for that, Donald Trump decided they had to go. But here's the real issue. As Kaitlan points out, this isn't just about a few firings. It's about Trump's deep-rooted belief that he operates above accountability, that rules exist for others but never for him. Throughout his career, Trump has shown a pattern, one that's impossible to ignore. When things don't go his way, he retaliates. When he's challenged, he doubles down. And when accountability comes knocking, he slams the door shut. Whether it's in business, politics, or even personal matters, the cycle remains the same. But Kaitlan isn't letting this slide. You can't keep getting away with this, she says, a sentiment that echoes the frustration of millions watching from the sidelines. Because this isn't just about one decision or a handful of officials, it's about the fundamental principles of democracy. When leaders start punishing those who uphold the rules, it sends a chilling message. Loyalty to the person in power matters more than loyalty to the truth. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Trump has made a move like this. His entire career has been a string of controversies, investigations, and allegations. Yet despite all of it, he continues to walk free, acting as though the rules simply don't apply to him. That's what makes this moment so critical. If history has taught us anything, it's that unchecked power leads to corruption. And if no one speaks out, if no one calls out these abuses for what they truly are, then what's stopping the next leader, or any leader, from doing the same? Kaitlan is drawing a hard line in the sand, making it clear that this isn't just a political debate. It's a fight for accountability, for transparency, and for the very idea that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. The real question now is, will people listen? Or will this, like so many scandals before it, get swept under the rug, allowing history to repeat itself once again? One thing's for sure, this conversation is far from over. What do you think? Is this just another political controversy, or is it a dangerous precedent that we should all be paying closer attention to? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate is only heating up.
You said something interesting in your statement when you were fired, and you said that you believed in part it was because, quote, I have a voice and he is afraid of what I'll tell the American people. What is it that you have to tell the American people?
Yeah, well, it's a really important point. I'm a minority commissioner right now. That means I'm not in charge of the agency. But what the FTC minority commissioners can do, and what commissioners at other independent agencies can do, is bring transparency and accountability to the work of the agency. So without the voice of the minority commissioners, if you see, for example, the FTC dismiss one of our many litigations against some of the big tech CEOs who flanked the president in his inauguration, you may not have any reason to know what was going on behind the scenes or what some other explanations or counter arguments will be. And that transparency and accountability has served the FTC really well for over 100 years.
At the end of the day, Trump isn't just undermining the system, he's actively breaking it. And if history has taught us anything, it's that unchecked power only grows bolder. That's why figures like Kaitlan are stepping up, refusing to let him rewrite the rules in his favor, because if no one holds him accountable, this pattern will never stop. Trump will keep believing that laws don't apply to him. He'll continue to think he can silence opposition with a signature, a tweet, or a backroom deal. But the American people aren't blind, and Kaitlan isn't backing down. She's standing firm, challenging the narrative, and making sure that the truth isn't buried beneath political spectacle. But this battle isn't just hers to fight, it's ours. If we let this slide, what precedent does it set for the future? Will every leader who comes after him feel emboldened to twist the system to their advantage? Will truth and accountability become relics of the past? The stakes are bigger than one man, one presidency, or one political party. This is about protecting the very foundation of democracy. And right now, the question isn't just about Trump, it's about us. Will we demand integrity from those in power, or will we let them dismantle the system piece by piece? One thing is certain, history is watching, and so are we. What do you think? Should leaders be held to the same legal and ethical standards as the rest of us, or will power continue to operate above the law? Let us know your thoughts, because this conversation is far from over.